Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Saturday, September 1st, 2018. In both the Lynn Life and the Jamie Body Mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions, and all other souls from all other dimensions, as long as the souls are already living by the Search for Truth rules given to the Search for Truth community by wiser minds above all of us, and are living by the soul plans assigned to these hosts' lives by wiser minds above all of us, and agreed to by the hosts' lives before the birth of each life. And if the visiting souls are not willing to acknowledge that soul plan, then this isn't a match, and it doesn't matter that they've ripped the soul plan out and stashed it behind the back of the barn.
That's true.
It's still the applicable soul plan, and when we get up in the morning, when the host lives awaken and the team reinvigorates the body, one of the first things we do is go get the soul plan from wherever the overnight invaders have stashed it and reinstall the soul plan. So it's really it doesn't reflect well, actually, on souls who drop into a life and the first thing they do is rip out the soul plan.
That's true.
Don't you want to think about what that says about you?
There's a question from someone who might just be a viewer in a less dense dimension, who's saying, how can I tell when my soul plan's been ripped out? What does that feel like? How do I know?
How do we answer this question? This is an interesting question to answer because the answer is so widely variable, but some people describe it as an indefinable offness.
That's
Something's wrong and I can't put my finger on it. It's hard to define. Something isn't right. I don't know what. But what we find does help is ask to be shown where the soul plan is, and that's when we see it stashed behind the barn, and then we look at where the soul plan should be, which should be installed at the back of the life, at the level of the organism, and also in the cells.
Oh, that's true.
And there are these big holes, and that's a sign. But how it feels in the life is very difficult to define. It's a difficult to define offness. Do you have anything out of that community to add?
Well, there's a feeling of a lack of mission. Like I don't really know why I'm here, and I'm just kind of floating along in life.
Waiting to die.
Yeah.
Purposeless.
I do not feel an inspired feeling.
But other things can give rise to that feeling.
That's
also.
True.
Facing backward on the soul plan,
That's
the life
true.
path can give that feeling. Being tumbled in the astrals can give that feeling.
That's
There
true.
are other things that can give that feeling of a purposeless life.
That's true.
There could be defiance with regard to the soul plan.
That's
Oppositional
true.
defiant disorder with regard to the soul plan also yields that feeling of purposelessness.
That's true.
I'm sorry, friend. It falls into the category of dysfunction with regard to the soul plan. There's a large category, dysfunction with regard to the soul plan, that yields problems in lives. This is one of them. For whom is the message, and why do you ask? It could be asking to use up borrowed time.
That's true.
It's possible. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe we stretch higher.
Maybe we stretch higher. There's a sudden community of crows flying overhead, one at a time. At least 4.
That's true.
There go 3 more. There's a gathering of crows right over there. It's interesting that the chickens seem to think that the crows are dangerous.
That's true.
And the crows are not dangerous. On the other hand, the chickens seem to kind of ignore the hawks or not take them very seriously, and the hawks are dangerous.
That's true.
For whom is the message? There is a gathering of crows, so that's one aspect of the message. Somebody's asking, what's the message? One aspect of it is that there's a gathering of crows.
That's true.
And another aspect is that it's hard to tell what's dangerous and what's not. There's been again a string of messages that are along the lines of, you don't have as much time as you think you do,
That's
time
true.
is running out, it's 5 minutes to midnight, etc. That category of messages. And it's hard to know what dimension is being referred to, but it is clear that there is some dimension or another who's coming up on last call to do the right thing. And then that window of opportunity will close. And we've seen this happen for many, many dimensions, and one day it will be our dimension's turn again,
That's
as it
true.
has been before. Whether this is the time or not is unclear.
That's true.
And it's interesting because when we got that message in 2014, and they said basically on I think it was a Thursday, leave right now, leave now. And by 4 a.m. Friday morning, something had happened to the point that these two host lives are having a conversation of feeling really strange, and do you
That's
think
true.
we're dead? And as we're driving through South Carolina at 4 in the morning, saying, how would we know? And trying to pay attention and being able to see fires that looked like nuclear fires playing
true.
out in one dimension, looking through one eye, oh, there's the nuclear fires, and then through another eye, here's this empty interstate that we're driving on because
That's
it's
true.
4 a.m. It was really unclear what was happening, and then we went to New York City sometime later
That's true.
and saw all these people walking around with energetically big holes in their chests. Their chests were blown open
That's
energetically. And at some level or another, they were all dead and trying to figure out what was going on. The best information from above that fit the data set seemed to be that there had been some nuclear war disaster in the dimension in which we had previously been living, and the collective agreement was to pretend that that didn't just happen and just float up and set up a fantasy world that matched as precisely as possible what had been happening before that nuclear disaster happened.
That's true.
And we just all kind of ignored it and moved on as if that hadn't just happened. For whom is the message, and why do you ask? Meanwhile, these crows are really carrying on.
That's
What is
true.
it, friends? Pan, there's something going on here. The crows are really carrying on. Pan. Possibly the point is that all experiences of sentience end. We're all going to die, which is simply a process of transitioning from a denser dimension to a less dense dimension. And
That's
when we
true.
transition, we're held accountable, or the window of opportunity closes to affect outcomes in that dimension, and now we're moving into another dimension. And that's inevitable, and it's nothing to be avoided. It's part of the game. And
That's true.
to not pretend that it isn't coming, and therefore stay more focused in the moment. What is the point? What are we supposed to be saying? Maybe we blew it. Maybe we didn't get our assignment before we
Maybe
turned on
we
the
blew it.
cameras. What's our assignment?
What is ours?
We're going to reinstall these soul plans to evacuate the even deeper, denser dimensions, because that's the only backup plan that anybody has put on the table that has stood the test of time. And for the most part, no souls are putting backup plans on the table. Their big plan seems to be, to continue to be, to somehow bully presences into living their soul plans. And our Ra tested that very thoroughly in an 8-month-long project, trying to get 2 resistant humanoids to live their soul plans, and he invested 6 million souls and a lot of other resources into the effort as well, and it was unsuccessful.
That's true.
And the best souls of whom we have awareness were participating in that effort, and they were working collectively as a team, and they did a really good job, and they were very organized and very disciplined and very hardworking, and a lot of things made a lot of sense about how they were going about it.
That's true.
And it was unsuccessful. So the takeaway from all of that was that nobody can force anybody to do anything, and all the data since then has remained consistent. We can't force anybody to do anything, and so the idea of trying to somehow bully presences into living their soul plans is sad, and it's an ineffective plan. We need to let that one go. Bullying doesn't work. What now to heal the cycles, or even break the cycles of bullying? What now to break the cycles of bullying and corruption? What now to break the cycles of cheating and stealing and lying? We're all going to die, i.e. transition, and we're all going to be held accountable, and it is going to happen, and the longer we put it off, the bigger the reveal will be.
That's
when
true.
The inevitable reveal occurs. It is inevitable. It's just crazy to try to avoid it. And what's great is to try to have check-ins periodically, twice a day, 5 times a day. It's great. Here's what I did. Here are the many mess-ups I have made since 8 a.m. Here are the many mess-ups I have made since 5 p.m. So just continue to acknowledge it.
That's true.
And then to make amends to the best of our abilities, either to the party who we harmed or to the greater good on behalf of that party, if it would make it worse, to make direct amends. But many people avoid making direct amends under the excuse that it somehow is harmful, and it isn't really.
That's true.
We really want to point out that something happened to the wizard, and he seems to be dead. The planetary consciousness for Ground Zero planet Earth, the soul seems to be dead. It seems to be a soul death, and he seems to have not understood that he was dead. But if you actually look at it in context, it makes a lot of sense.
Well, that's true.
And he might have been dead since, I don't know, 2014.
That's true.
When he left. Maybe he was dead shortly after that. Maybe he died before that. I don't know, but he's dead. And we need another soul for the planet. We really do. The protocol is to grow our own from our cells, our cellular souls. That's the current protocol on the table, and it seems to work pretty well.
That's true.
Take the most advanced souls, please. And give them both the title of planetary consciousness and the resources that go with that title, please. Please do that. And the resources in the dimension that we're discussing. Ground Zero resources would be relevant in Ground Zero. Give it to the most advanced souls. And we've already said multiple times that we believe it's Thich Nhat Hanh. The soul is Thich Nhat Hanh, and you guys aren't acting on that. So give it to who you think it is. But it has to fit the fact pattern.
That's true.
It has to fit the fact pattern if you guys don't want to look blatantly corrupt.
That's true.
What now to break the cycles of bullying and corruption in all dimensions? No matter what anyone else does or doesn't do, since that's what our soul contracts commit us to doing, among many other things. What now?